Yes, I know I disappointed everyone with my video on how I was wrong about this 4-year cycle playing out. That's true, but the reality is this is all strategy to try and actually take advantage of some of these market conditions. Again, when it's pretty clear that the market is so heavy like this, you want to be selling into the resistances and then buying at the supports, and that's what I plan to do. That was exactly what I told you my plan was on the last video, and we did get one of the biggest bounces into the area that I was looking to sell. Listen to what I told you on the very last video. It does look and it does feel like there will be some major bounces here. I'm sure that there could be some bounces very easily back up towards this $90,000 level, but make no mistake, this $90,000 level needs to be flipped into support for this to become bullish. If you guys need to raise some cash, I would wait for the market to bounce up towards that 90K and understand that it's probably going to take a few attempts to recover above there. So I would expect that if Bitcoin runs up to 90K, that would be a decent region to raise some cash, not because you want to get out of the market entirely, but because you want to buy lower. Like me, I want to buy lower. Now, just a day or two later, after I made that video, we had the best ever increase in a single day in crypto history. And now we've had the second worst decrease on record. And so this shows you when the market's heavy, you can have these massive mechanical bounces up because there's so many shorts to liquidate on the way up. Everyone's short, and then the market can fall right back down. Now, of course, this was the reason. The reason is that we've seen the Trumps effectively come out and say, oh, we're going to do this strategic Bitcoin reserve and crypto reserve. We already knew that. And so if you were already having your eyebrow raised to this particular moment in the markets, you could have spotted that, okay, this feels like a rehypothecated, reused headline that we have no more details on than we did the last time the headline came out, and suddenly the market just loves it, just absolutely adores it. Well, those are actually just mechanical bounces disguised as news. The market is doing what the market's going to do based on the actual flows into the market, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But essentially, this was what happened is we had a tweet about the US crypto reserves. You could see Trump doesn't really want the crypto markets to fall all that much, but at the same time, the actual actions that are happening, the actual realities around the economy are actually pulling down risk assets. And it's not just crypto here, it's actually all risk assets. You can see here the S&P is completely falling down. It's come off its highs and it's now retracing, and it's in a bearish posturing for the first time. And again, people are blaming tariffs, people are blaming all kinds of issues, but I think it's pretty important that people realize, look, this is something that's been happening here. Look, pending home sales have fallen to a new all-time low. The market's been in a total freeze since the end of the COVID hype, and it's just been grinding down slowly here. We're also seeing reports here of nightlife completely slowing down and getting to a halt in Vegas, which is a good indicator of how liquid people are, of how much money people feel like they have. Not spending on going out is a huge indicator. The S&P is at key support. People are selling off. And out of Scott Bessent, the new Treasury Secretary, we're seeing comments like this: in 6 to 12 months, it becomes Trump's economy. And that kind of leaves me with the gripping the side of the car, wondering what the heck are they planning for the next 6 to 12 months? Because it sounds like they're trying to defer blame and say, yeah, hey, whatever happens in this 6 to 12 months, not our problem, not our situation, right? This is still Sleepy Joe's economy. Now, I saw this tweet. It actually helped me understand what is being said. There is a ton of conflicting rhetoric coming out about what is actually happening in the economy and what the plan is with Trump's economic agenda. Because on one side, you have Doge cutting all this funding from the government, which is good, but that spending actually would find its way into risk assets, into the economy, with at the very least more people getting paid. So wages and unemployment, that stuff. But there's also more tax revenue. The more bloat, the more actual deficit we run, which actually finds its way into risk assets, stuff like that. But the reality is that cutting all that away, while it is exciting to balance the budget, and it's certainly important for America long-term, short-term, it's kind of bearish for assets. So it leads us wondering, what is the plan? We know Trump actually cares about the asset markets. He cares about stocks and crypto. He cares about real estate. How can he actually help the Americans get what they want out of the economy? What is the plan? And I like this breakdown. Kem here says, you did not already understand this is the approach of the White House. Okay, they want to slow demand in the real economy and hence slow inflation. Right now, sticky inflation is what's stopping them from actually fueling the economy and loosening conditions with lower interest rates and effectively some form of QE. I know they want some form of QE, but they at least want super low interest rates. Okay, so they're going to do this effectively with a bit of pain, and that makes sense. Out of the next 6 to 12 months, they're going to cut government spending, cut government employment, cut Medicare, cut SNAP food assistance, school lunches, cut low-income housing. Effectively, this is what they are saying they're going to cut. I mean, this is what someone is assuming they're going to cut. I don't know if this is true. They've certainly explicitly never said things like cutting Medicare. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But this is one theory, right? Is that they're going to cut spending, which is going to slow down the economy and effectively kill inflation. But it will probably also, if this is true, cause some form of recession or mini recession. Then they're going to effectively step in and stimulate, right? And that's what their plan is to offer some tax cuts and deregulation. And so he theorizes that effectively in about 6 months, once the cyclical deflation takes place, the 6 to 12 months of pain, then they step in quickly and smash the button with quantitative easing, looser conditions, lower rates, QT to QE pipeline is complete. Now, if this person is correct, then that means that we could have a recession here. Now, I want to be clear. I don't believe a recession is coming until I actually see it happen. But it's good to be mentally aware that that could be what's throwing off this entire bull run right now, is we would have had this next explosive moment upwards if we weren't walking such a tightrope of Fed QT and interest rate hike. No, we're going to cut. No, we're actually going to pause. No, we might hike again. Oh, actually, inflation is sticky. Oh, no, it's gone. It's very, very unclear where we're at with inflation. And that's leading to an unpredictable Federal Reserve, which is why the markets are saying, which direction? Where are we going? Now, after this massive comment about, okay, a crypto reserve will have XRP, SOL, ADA, leading all those assets to pump up like madness, like wildfire. And then people were saying, okay, wow, this is going to be a shitcoin reserve, like what does XRP and ADA actually do? Are these worthy of being on the national balance sheet? And people are having all these objections, like why would the government spend our money on Cardano? Like, how do you rationalize that? How is that a step forward? And, Eric Trump saying, we love the genius of announcing this on a Sunday. They really think they cooked here. But the reality is that then we see comments like this. Nobody announced a tax or spending program. Maybe you should wait to find out what's actually being proposed, which I said, yikes. Because that's effectively them saying, okay, so they're not going to tax or spend on this crypto reserve. So are they going to buy? Or is this just yet another hand wavy thing where they're expecting for Cardano Foundation to donate $1 billion in Cardano? And now all of a sudden the government has a crypto reserve with Cardano. But what did that do for your average Cardano holder bro or based sis? The reality is that we don't know. Nobody knows. And right now, this uncertainty, this stoppy-startiness, mixed with every day a new tariff, a new this, a new that. Is it going into effect? Is it not? This stoppy-starty stuff out of Trump with the macro policies, with the trade war policies, while these might long-term be amazing, short-term, they're causing markets who are already in a gentle position here to be very much so on edge and start breaking down. And it's not just happening in crypto. It's happening in mainstream markets, in NASDAQ, in S&P. It's happening across the board. And it begs the question, is that exactly what they wanted? Is that what they've wanted out of this situation? Is to crash the markets so that they can effectively kill inflation and begin a new business cycle with lower interest rates, lower prices on housing, lower. They can effectively break the markets and rebuild them. That is typically how everything works. And then in the process, they can inflate away the debt and do all the things that we've expected them to do. That is the question. Are they intentionally trying to crash the markets very quickly in Trump's term and then flip on the money printer and have everything return to health by the time there's another election? Again, I encourage you guys to follow me on Twitter. I put up this chart on Twitter yesterday. I also made the video where I explained my plan to take profits into the 90K bounce region. We actually got that region, but I was even more specific on Twitter because I wanted there to be a very, very clear cutoff. What I was surprised about is that we were actually able to close a candle up here above this sort of full bull risk on metric. But I was a little bit unsure because it was so close to this flip into the bullish control zone that I was shocked. Obviously, the weekly looks absurd. Like the weekly candle is the most insane weekly candle I've ever seen in my life. You can see, I don't think there's actually been a weekly candle as crazy as this. This was a total gap of $18,000 on a weekly candle. Absolutely insane. But what you see is that we almost immediately reversed right out of there, showing that there's not really support here and that this pump up into this region was triggered by that Trump tweet. But it was just the mechanical bounce that I was expecting anyway. But it was just a little bit more powerful than it would have otherwise been because the whale saw a chance to sort of bait people in with this crypto bill, that we don't know anything about. So I tweeted this yesterday because I think this is really key. I said, okay, look, here's a breakdown, right? Uncle Sam may soon become Daddy Sam, buying our shitcoins. But the details of how much and when, these are what determines whether or not this pump is real. Otherwise, this will probably just have been the catalyst for the retest. Again, so I put this up yesterday. It's showing it's right on the line here, but you can see the lines I drew, and I drew these, was this back on the 25th, I drew these lines into the chart because I was making a video that I had to scrap because price moved too much. And honestly, the video just didn't work as well. It didn't make sense to be putting up. It would have made a lot of sense if I'd gotten it out yesterday. But anyway, I was predicting for us to bounce up and to try to essentially challenge this region and then fail. And given all these macro issues that we're having, I see this lower end of this range. I mean, if you see this move over here, it was super thin, this whole move. was almost no structure here. It didn't pause. It didn't really build structure at all throughout this whole move. And that usually means that if it goes the other way, it can go just as fast the other way. So I feel like this bottom end of the zone here, this prior all-time high, and then the impulse where we started the pump, like anything between this in this demand zone is probably an insane buy if we can get anything in here. I don't know if we'll go that low, which is why I have the nibble zone here. The nibble zone is where I'm going to start buying. Obviously, the red zone is where the goal was to raise cash. So if you didn't have any cash, the goal was to sell some into the bounces that we had like yesterday. I was even a little unsure because we closed the weekly up here. But at the same time, if we come back again, which is totally possible, we could bounce right back up into this area and retry it again. You might get another chance to sell something. But I do think that as you get down below 80K in any meaningful way, that's where you should start looking at getting back into the market and getting risk on. Because long term, I believe that these will be generational buys. Bitcoin is going to $1 million. And the question is, if you can get some Bitcoin here in the 70K region, I think it's very cheap. That being said, I do think the worse this gets is this blue box down here. And I have only if recession, right? Which is where we'll test the bottom end back where the Trump pump sort of truly began. This was back when the bullet happened, when Trump got shot. And this is when the real downtrend got reversed, is because we had this whole euphoria of a pro-crypto president being a reality. Now, this is the worst case scenario. If we get a retrace down to the 50K region, that's where it's just like every penny you have should go into the markets. But I want to be very clear. If no recession, I think that this purple zone is the ultimate worst case scenario. If there is a recession and there's actually some kind of real break in the economy, home sales start plummeting, other types of massive cool-offs, then I don't think we get a rally at any point this year. I think we go do the recession thing and we wait for QE. But if we don't get the recession, which mind you, the people predicting recessions do it every single day for 10, 20 years. And then the one time they're right, they claim the clout. I don't like doing that. I've gotten suckered into the macro recession doomer thing before. I don't believe in it until I see it. But the reality is my plan right now is very simple. I'm looking to get heavy buys for everything that's not in the market right now into this purple box, hopefully. The nibble zone, I'm going to be nibbling. And in the middle, I think we have kind of like a no trade zone. That's kind of where we're at right now, is we're really just in the middle. We're diddling in the middle. Maybe this is the ultimate low from the other day. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not convinced because there's not really that much buying demand around 78K. There's just not really any structure here. I'm just not convinced that that's the ultimate bottoming formation here. Keeping it very simple, if we bounce back up into the red, I'll be looking to sell a bit more. If we somehow make it and start getting accepted above the green and, we start doing like this, that's when I'd start saying, okay, well, maybe we need to buy higher and get back into the market. But most likely we'll probably diddle around in this red zone at the best and then come down and check out this yellow and purple zone. Remember, the whole point of my video, my last video, was to say that I'm not just gonna be offense only, I'm gonna have offense and defense mode. This is what defense mode looks like. I know it's less fun, but it's important to stay grounded here. What we just saw is that the US government is going to be potentially buying or storing or hoarding or collecting our altcoins. If you told this to someone even 1 year ago, it would have been considered like seeing a white buffalo, alligator, dragon creature flying over your house. It doesn't make any sense. It's a fiction. It's a fantasy. And yet, this is the fantasy that we're living. So it's really just a question of when this market ends up printing, because the direction is insanely clear. And we need to understand what's causing this rocky period, not just in crypto, but in all markets. Well, it's the uncertainty. It's the macro uncertainty. It's the already fragility of the US economy. It's the inflation problem still not fully going away and not allowing the Fed to fully loosen conditions. As you can see, total 3 here is getting pushed back to the lower end of the range. That bounce just got completely destroyed. Very tricky stuff here. But if we look at the actual altcoin strength, we can see total 3 minus the stable coins. What we see here, and I'll switch back to the daily here. What we see here is that we had this attempt to get back above this resistance, and it got slammed down so hard, you got to kind of see this as a deviation. And so I'm expecting for these to go and be explored in this range, which again would mean that we'd be getting to historical low ranges for the altcoins. Now, of course, this would be the ultimate low range that historically has been explored, which again is why at this point, I was just switching to defense mode. It's not that I'm bearish on crypto. It's that I want so much more of it when we do flip back onwards and upwards, which to me is a question of when, not if. And until then, I'm just feeling like all of the catalysts that we had, all of the excitement for Trump, all of the hopium for a Bitcoin strategic reserve, the deregulation, all of these things are long-term, massive tailwinds, but they haven't gone into effect yet. and we don't know exactly when they'll go into effect. So the excitement off of the Trump election is pretty much worn off, if not wearing off. And now we need to wait for the next impulse, which is effectively to understand where the new money coming into the market will come from. I believe this is all a journey to get to $100 trillion market cap, and that this industry is going to go bananas. But right now, the goal is to figure out how to buy the absolute most amount of these assets on the dip. And that means selling into the range highs and buying the range lows until we're able to see a new stimulus. So there you have it. We got our mechanical bounce, this time created by a tweet by Donald Trump. It's pretty clear at this point that any tweet or any comment from Trump or anyone else is not going to be considered a lasting stimulus on the market. We've run through all of the word service and all of the nice thoughts and dreams. Now we need actual new money coming into the market. We need to understand where that new money is coming from. Now, if they loosen conditions, if they cut rates, if they actually start adding Bitcoin strategic reserve to the balance sheet, they're actually going to buy it. Those types of things could change this market around in a heartbeat. But until then, the real question is, when are we going to explore the lows of the range? I think that that's going to happen. And if you don't have any cash on the side, you should be looking at these bounces up as a chance to raise some cash, like I said on my last video. And I will be going in extremely hard, chucking in everything I have at the lows of this range. That is, unless we get a recession. If we get a recession, then I'm pulling stuff out and I'm waiting to buy until we start to see the bottom of the pool. As always, this was not the plan. This was not how the 4-year cycle was supposed to go. And that again shows us that this maybe isn't the 4-year cycle anymore. That essentially Bitcoin is just responding to global liquidity. It's a global asset now, and it's just going to respond to, as the markets loosen conditions, it's going to explode. As they tighten conditions, it's going to contract. More money in the ecosystem finds its way into crypto, less money finds its way out of crypto, and that using the 4-year cycle mentality is something that's only going to get me hurt, whereas understanding the actual impulses on the market is going to set me up for success. Now, if no recession, I'm buying the range lows and I'm expecting a massive rally later in the year, either in the next month or two, or more sustainably in the second half of the year. If there's a recession, we got to throw that out and evaluate. If there's a huge collapse in the stock market or something like that, you got to throw that out and reevaluate. But until we get that, this is the plan. And I hope you guys enjoy the plan. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Again, I know I like to scream bull, 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 but this is the first time I feel like, okay, I have a chance here to get even more coins out of this industry by selling the red, buying the purple, and getting prepared for another rally either in the next few months or in the later half of the year. Again, that's all pending no recession. As always, I hope you enjoyed this one. Again, I'm going to keep it coming with as much timely and useful content as I can. Like the video yesterday, I know a lot of people were mad, but look, that's just what played out. It's exactly what played out. Let's see if I can keep getting it right, and I'll see you very soon on the next episode.